with allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda is the approval of last month's regular business meeting of the Planning Commission. And I have a
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
discussion. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay.
Correspondence? Yeah.
I don't have anything yet.
Yes.
Numbers 5 on the agenda, I do have a paper that I would like you to look at.
Okay. Next on our agenda is Michael and Linda McLaughlin on Hammett Road. Mike?
Hi, good evening. McLaughlin's are here as well if you have any questions for them, but basically they asked me to do a subdivision plan for them. They own property on Hammett Road. They have an existing home there, and they'd like to subdivide off this new parcel for their daughter. She's interested in building their own property. So we surveyed it. It did not have enough frontage to have two 200-foot wide lots, so we explored the ordinance, and the ordinance does have a flag lot provision. So I prepared a plan. I believe it is compliant, no variances, no modifications. I believe it meets the spirit of the flag lot criteria. And so we're here just looking for approval.
Questions from the board? Pretty simple.
Okay.
I have it.
I call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Need a second?
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
You
you.
abstain, let's see.
Yeah.
Next on our agenda is a request for planning waiver and a non-building declaration.
Correct. As part of the subdivision, this is the lot, we're looking for the new lot to be waived. So we have to put a notation on the plan to that effect. And it's not a buildable lot until such time as it addresses septic in one way or the other. It could be a traditional septic, it could be small flow. But at this time, they're looking just to waive the lot, and we have a requirement to do this form and put this note on the plan.
There again, I think it's pretty simple, but any discussion? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept. I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next on our agenda is the saldo review.
Yep, I just wondered if you guys had any questions along the review process that you'd like to talk about. I know it's a lot to go through.
Yeah, it is, but the intent here, as we touched on before, is to replace it, right? To-
Replace it and be consistent with our new ordinance.
Okay.
Nothing yet.
One last question, Tammy. The yellow highlighted areas in the saldo, those are the ones that have been reviewed for inclusion or?
Right, so Matt and I looked at it and
It's the areas where I'm looking for suggestions. They don't necessarily need to be included, so I was kind of wishy-washy whether they should be included or not, so I just left them in there for someone else to look at and give their opinion. So,
I was wondering, because I saw some of them delineated, and I was somewhat disregarding any of the ones, but
yeah, you can review it without going into that. It's kind of like going down the rabbit hole a little bit in some sections, so if you want to skip that area, but it's kind of in there for if Tammy has suggestions, if the supervisors have any suggestions, or if you guys have any suggestions, if you want it in there, you can keep it in there. If you want it gone, we can remove it. There's quite a few in there, so I can't remember any of the real specific instances. But we can also dedicate a meeting to going over those highlighted areas sometime if you want to do that as well.
I might need that.
Okay.
I don't know the rest of the planning commission needs that or not, but that's something that would help.
Yeah.
Happy with that response? Okay. Next on our agenda is the comprehensive plan implementation update.
Got the draft sidewalk ordinance.
Oops, excuse me. Sorry.
That's
Jumped
all
ahead
right.
of here.
Trying to skip over.
Yes. You know.
So up on the screen, and I think it was in your packets as well, we have the draft sidewalk ordinance amendment that our solicitor came up with. And we've discussed this in depth, mostly in the spring. We kind of took a hiatus from this for a little while in the summer, but we discussed a lot of this in the spring. But it's amending the sidewalk ordinance, specifically section 4, the requirements for sidewalks, taking us away from the zoning based criteria to going to the transportation map, official map process. So just to review it real quick, the requirement for sidewalks will be based off the official map. Any sidewalks on new public streets and major subdivisions or land developments which intersect with streets with existing sidewalk or future sidewalk will be required to have sidewalk. And then we delete quite a few sections, and then we have a new section C, property owner to construct sidewalk. And this basically shadows the second-class township code, which states that it's the responsibility of the property owner to construct and maintain sidewalk along the frontage of their property where it's deemed necessary. I'm not going to read through it all, but basically that's what that says. And then there's the process the township has to kind of force that issue and any remedies if they fail to comply. And then D, E, and F have remained the same from the original ordinance. So with that, we look at the transportation map. Let Deb pull that up. So I'm probably gonna have to zoom in and out if you don't mind. But, and we talked about this pretty exhaustively last spring. If we go to the first quadrant here of the township, there we go. Scooch up a little bit. All right, good. So the areas highlighted in red are proposed future sidewalk areas. So these are the areas where we want sidewalk, but it's not there currently. So we have Zook Road and Edinburgh Road, the side streets for Peach Street in the commercial area, and then Oliver Road and Robinson Road up in that section. So if we scroll down to the south, we'll kind of work counterclockwise. So in the 5-point section, we have one remaining spur here from Dorn Road down to Marley Way, and then the Town Hall Village area, Town Hall Road, parks, and getting people from these areas to the park. And then I think go up to the top right, and we have the Route 97 corridor from the mobile home parks connecting folks to the amenities on 97. So that's kind of what we whittled it down to. If you remember, we started off with a vast array of a sidewalk, and we kind of whittled it down to what was realistic and the kind of near long term. And this is where we're at right now. So my thought is, since we're to this point, we can prepare for public hearings probably in the beginning of the year. I think we have to go before, there'll be a public hearing before the Planning Commission, and then before the supervisors, before adoption, because it is a land use ordinance, especially the transportation plan here. So there's a process. And instead of doing it around Christmas time, they wait till after the holidays and do it first thing January, February next year. So, kind of any last minute comments, concerns before we proceed to the next step?
Just a question, I guess. So, for sidewalks that would cross a township boundary, like between Mill Creek and Summit, like what you have on Peach, do we have is there a process in place that allows or provides for the two townships to collaborate, work together, or does Summit just go off on its own and do something, and Mill Creek off on its own and do something, or?
We don't really have a collaborative effort at the moment, but that's something we can look into. We haven't had an instance where we went to a township line and went and see where they're at.
Yeah.
Now, the whole Peach Street corridor, that's gonna be driven more by PennDOT. So whenever PennDOT does a project, we would push them to include sidewalks as part of that project whenever they go to do it, which I think is hopefully within the next 10 years is going to be a possibility, especially in this area. So that one, not only does it require sidewalk, it's going to require updating of traffic signals, and it's just beyond the scope of what the township can accomplish without the help of PennDOT. So at that point, there would be some coordination between PennDOT, Summit, and Mill Creek, because it'd be going right across the township line. Now, on Zook Road, the plan is we would just stop our sidewalk at the municipal boundary line. And then if Mill Creek decided to put in sidewalks someday, they have somewhere to connect to, but.
Yeah, I was just looking at it from the standpoint of the user of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The people that are walking and go, gee, can't you guys work together? You know, they get to the end of the sidewalk and start walking on mud, you know.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more pedestrian traffic on 99 recently from, like the back of Giant Eagle up to Copperley.
Okay.
I'm seeing foot traffic periodically on there.
There's, every day on the way home, there's people walking on there.
So that's something I can easily draw the line and put it back on there.
Well, and that's one thing too, we'd have to probably work with Mill Creek unless you just want to stop and leave it.
Yeah, well, there again, it's also on a state route, so we'd have to work with PennDOT as well.
I don't know if it's just me recently, but I've noticed more foot traffic and I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know if they're coming from Copperleaf and walking down to Giant Eagle or the mall, wherever, but there's.
And whenever we did a study on Edinburgh Road, and Christopher probably remembers this, I think we're still at the MPO, so.
That was one of my first projects.
Yeah, so we had a study done for Edinburgh Road and Hershey Road. And one of the recommendations that came out of that was actually a trail that went from Golf Club Road and along near the 79 right-of-way back to where Sportsman's Warehouse is. So if you were able to do a trail like that, that kind of negates the need for people to walk down 99, which is even better because you get people away from the traffic, the less likely to have an incident there.
Is it done? Is there a trail path back there?
There is not, but we have a study that says that it's a priority. It's not a top priority. I think it actually made the long-range transportation plan as well. I can check, but I think it's on there.
It's a good idea.
But it was a Mill Creek project, so we didn't have too much of a push on it.
Is it realistic? Ravines and topographical concerns?
It's probably more realistic than like if you're going to try to put a road there, because footpaths,
Sure.
you don't have to have a heavy pavement section. The bridges don't have to be as heavily built, and people can walk down a certain amount of grade. So is it realistic? I don't know. It may be realistic, but is it feasible is the right
Handicap.
question.
Handicap,
Yeah, everything would have to be possibly handicap accessible.
E-bike, people can be riding their e-bikes on that, I would.
There is, the ADA criteria is different for trails than it is for sidewalks. They do allow a little more latitude on slopes. So,
I hate to be negative, but the truth is the truth.
yeah. Anything's realistic, is whether it's feasible or not. Any other comments, concerns? And we might go to the public hearing and everybody's like, we don't need sidewalks here and we'd rather have it here. So this map will probably change a little bit between now and the finish line. But everybody's okay with the concept, get away from the zoning ordinance. Carte blanche, you gotta put in sidewalks in this zone no matter what, and make it something a little more logical where we actually want them. Okay, just wanna make sure I'm barking up the right tree.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda? Come on, Chris. There you go, thank you. That's a first. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.